Hey, this is Susan Gabriel, author of Wheels of Injustice, Saving My Child from the Child Savers. And if you really want to learn how to level up your life, you should be listening to the Time to Shine Today podcast with my good friend Scott Ferguson. Let's level up.
Time to Shine Today Podcast Varsity Squad. This is Scott Ferguson, and I've got a tear-jerking, heart-tugging, fantastic interview with my good friend Susan Louise Gabriel, the author of Wheels of Injustice. I'm not going to give away too much of the story because I want her to tell it. All I know is if I was walking in her shoes, that I would have been going, just crazy. And basically, it's about her daughter being taken, and I'll just leave it at that because Susan does a fantastic, superb job of telling the story, being very transparent, honest, and open. And it was just such a blessing to speak to Susan. And I can't wait to bring you this interview. So sit back, relax, break out your notebooks, and if you like the interview, please leave us a like or a share or 5 stars or whatever those are out there. It really helps our sponsors and affiliates. And without further ado, here's my really good friend, author of Wheels of Injustice, Susan Louise Gabriel. Let's level up. Time to Shine Today Podcast Varsity Squad. This is Scott Ferguson, and I was introduced to my good friend Susan Louise Gabriel. I'm just going to call her Susan because there is another author out there named Susan as well, Susan Gabriel. But Susan Gabriel, and through a mutual friend through his platform Podmatch. And I'm pretty picky, as you know, about the people that I kind of bring onto the show, not to say I'm bigger than anything, but I want to make sure a story and her experience resonates with you out there to really maybe tug at some heartstrings, also and triumph over tragedy as well. But Susan Louise Gabriel, she's the author of a heart-tugging memoir, which I'm going to do a book giveaway at the end, but so you have to listen to them until then as well. I'm ashamed to say I haven't read it yet, but I'm buying it today to dig into it. But it's a heart-tugging memoir about her crusade to get her daughter back after she was taken by an out-of-control child protection agency, and Susan's resultant activism on a national scale. After a lifetime career in business development, she's moved over to really helping authors out there get their story out as well. Susan's goal really is to inspire others to live a life that's present and active in this world, yet shaped by forces that lie beyond it. And our mutual force is God. And people that know me out there know I'm a Christian. So we're going to dig into God a little bit on this as well. And my good friend Susan lives in Texas, where it's probably pretty nice now, but again, it's hot. I think it's the way God created it was the sun, Texas and Florida, then the earth in the summertime. So Susan, thank you so much for coming on. Please introduce yourself to Time to Shine Today Podcast Varsity Squad. But first, what's your favorite color and why?
I'm wearing it. It's
Purple
purple.
or violet? Purple, okay.
Purple.
And why is that?
I've just always loved it. It's such a deep and rich color.
Right.
It has so much intensity. I really like it.
I love it. One, it's royal and regal, right? And in the book of Numbers, anything that was royalty in the book of Numbers was purple, if you remember that. And it's also a mix of red and blue. So I'm sure that both you and I have that side to us where, especially the tribulations that you had to go through, a red side probably came out when it had to, but you're also pretty laid back in blue as well. So seriously, thank you so much for coming on, Susan. It's a blessing to have you here. And if you don't mind, let's get to the roots of the story of Wheels of Injustice, and then we're just going to kind of move on from there.
Yeah. Well, the major part of my story really starts when I got married to my second husband. And 6 weeks after that time, the Department of Social Services gave me a call and said, "We have your daughter." And I was in total shock. I had no idea what they meant. They said, "Come down right away. We want to talk to you." And so when I went down to their office, they told me that my new husband had molested her. And I was in shock. I had not seen any indication that he was anywhere capable of something like that. And I said, "Where? What happened?" And they said, "Well, he tickled her." And I said, "Well, where did he tickle her?" And they said, "Well, on the stomach and on the knee." And I said, "That's not molestation." I said, "What are you talking about?" And I said, "Can I speak with your supervisor?" And they said, "Well, she's not here right now. You'll have to come back later." And they escorted me out. They said they were keeping my daughter until I kicked out my husband from the home and did not allow him to have any contact with her, and he could not live at home.
Mhm.
Uh, but I didn't immediately do that. I just, I'm not the kind of person that just will immediately do something somebody says without thinking it through.
Right.
So I didn't do it.
And
We were advised,
understandably so. He's
yeah,
your
and
husband, right?
yeah, right. And
Right.
and if he's falsely accused, I'm not going to go along with their uh persecution of him.
Right.
So
And
that's how it
what year
started.
was this?
This was 1986.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. And
long
how old
time
was your
ago.
daughter then? 9,
She
you
was
said?
she was just turned 9 years old.
Okay, got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
my other daughter was 15.
Okay.
And so they took her, they kept her. Uh, we didn't even really know where this came from, this
Mhm.
accusation, but it was just a misunderstanding from something that she told her teacher.
Ah.
So it really wasn't anything.
Mhm.
But the Department of Social Services did not believe us. And the harder we tried to tell them, what the truth was, the more they fought us.
Mm.
And it just kept getting worse and worse. And they eventually they charged my husband with a, a felony, and the penalty for it, they said, was 16 years in prison. It could
Right.
be up to that.
Right.
So it just continued to get worse and worse. I was beside myself. I just felt awful because my daughter wanted to come home so bad. I
Mm.
wanted her to come home, but I knew that if I kicked my husband out of the house so she could come back, then the Department of Social Services would then see that as an admission of guilt,
And then
that I
arrest him.
believed, yeah, that I had believed that he had molested her.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
so I was really stuck in a really hard position. I tried to kill myself. It got so bad. I was just, I just completely lost it.
Mm.
And I tried it in such a way that I did not believe that anybody would ever find me or stop me. I drove up in
Mm.
the mountains west of Colorado, in Colorado Springs. So I was in a remote area. I took pills and laid down to die. And I said, God, if you want me to live, you're going to have to do something because I just can't go on anymore.
Mm.
So he did something, obviously, because
Yeah.
here
You're
I
here.
sit.
Thank
I'm
God.
here. It was a
Literally.
miracle. It
Oh.
really was a miracle. And I talk about that in my book, and I
Okay.
won't spoil it
No,
here.
no, I appreciate can't wait to
Listen.
dig into that.
Yeah.
Wow. And so like are you in touch with your daughter now and everything? Everything
Oh,
is
yeah. Oh,
okay.
yeah. Yeah,
I mean
it was
that I mean
3
spoiler
years.
alert there, but
Right,
at the
spoiler
same
alert,
time.
I did get her back 3
Okay.
years later, but it took 3 years. But during that time, I became an activist. I was just so angry.
Mm.
Um, and so my husband and I started a nonprofit organization because
Mhm.
there were other people out there in the same boat. So we
Wow.
banded together. I started getting speaking engagements. I spoke to the National Press Association. I called into talk radio shows, wrote letters to the editor. I got some attention from national magazines that we were in an article, and then there was a book that came out. We were one of the chapters in the book.
Mm.
The Today Show decided that they would interview the
Wow.
author of that book. So they came out and sent a crew out. So they interviewed us, and we were on the Today Show as well. So
Wow.
we went wide.
Good. Good.
Yeah.
And this is before social media. I mean,
Yes.
that takes
Oh,
work
yes.
to do,
Yes.
and
Absolutely.
guidance and whatnot.
No internet, nothing. Just, writing letters, calling people. There was no internet. So it was a lot of work. But
Other than each other, Susan, was there any other support system that was there for you that you could lean on?
Yeah, Clark's sister, my husband's sister, was really, she was wonderful,
Good.
a wonderful person, and she never doubted Clark ever. She
Right.
always believed in him.
Gotcha. And are you and Clark still together?
Yep. He, you
That's a
might hear of it.
beautiful ending to a just a crazy story. And
Yeah.
I don't want to be like, oh, I can't wait to dig into your tribulations you have, but I do, because the end result is God is good, and obviously did the right, or you did right by him, or he did right by you in Colorado,
Yes.
and still here we are having this conversation. So,
Right.
what lesson did you really pull out of the situation from a 30,000-foot view? Susan, what lesson did you pull out?
That that God is always with you, even when you don't think he's there. He's still there.
Love it. And it's that's 100% true, because like I learned to pray in a different way. Like I was raised super strict Baptist, where it was
Oh.
just like, oh, just super strict. There's nothing wrong if that's what
Mhm.
you worship and whatnot, and that's fine. But now I almost have discussions with God
Yeah.
versus, and I believe silence is actually God's voice. So I get
Uh-huh.
really
Uh-huh.
quiet and I actually talk, and
Uh-huh.
then shut up, and things have really started coming around to me because I've had my own little run-ins in life, and I 100% believe in that. So, what do you feel maybe that your strengths are, and how much do you appreciate them after going through this experience?
I guess resiliency is one. I never would have thought of that I was resilient, but I am. Someone just this morning told me I was a strong woman.
Mm.
I don't feel strong. There's one Bible verse that I love. It's that God will not, a bruised reed he will not break, and a dimly burning wick he will not extinguish.
Ooh, I
So,
love that.
I love it too, because I feel like a bruised reed a lot of times, and a candle that's about ready to go out.
Yeah,
But he won't let that happen. He steps in and he gives you strength. And that's what I've learned.
sure.
And and here's another thing that I think is really important, and that is to not look and worry about the future. Just take one day at a time. Just follow
Yes.
that's that step
Yes.
that God has for you today. Ask him
Yes.
this morning what he wants you to do, and then do it. And it may be completely different from what you had planned to do that day.
Yes.
And at
Yes.
the end of the day, you'll think, wow, that was really, really interesting. What
Yeah.
happened? It was quite an adventure. And so
So
I love
true.
it.
So
Yes.
true. Like I have I'm a coach, and I coach individuals, and I see so many people have a foot in the future, a foot in the past, and they pee all over the present, right? It's just kind of
Yeah.
like my analogy, right? And that's what they do, because they'll live in that rearview mirror. Like if you're sitting in a car, and they'll that rearview mirror is your past. It's small for
Mhm,
a reason.
mhm,
And that
mhm.
dashboard is big and scary, right? But if you're not having the hand on the steering wheel, foot on the gas, know where the brakes at, you have to live now, and that's where you pray,
Mhm.
and you move forward. And I
Yes.
love that you said that. Don't worry about the future, because even Philippians, he says, don't be anxietal about what you feel is going to happen, because one, you and I both have survived 100% of our worst days,
Yes.
and there's a
Yes.
reason for that. Okay, period. So we have, and again, it's cliche, but cliches are cliche because they work. God's not going to give us any more than we can handle.
Yeah.
Period. I
Yeah.
love that. I love that there's triumph to this story. So, do you remember the movie Back to the Future?
Oh, yes.
Okay, let's get in that DeLorean with Marty McFly. Okay, let's go back to the 22-year-old Susan. Okay,
Yeah.
what kind of knowledge nuggets do we call them here in Time to Shine today? Not so much to change anything. I'm sure there's things you might change, but what kind of knowledge nuggets would you drop on the 22-year-old Susan that maybe help her shorten her learning curve or level up a little bit better through life?
Um, don't give up. Don't be sad. It's going to get better, and it's going to be terrific.
Oh my gosh, that is just, it's strong.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And you had to keep telling yourself, during that
Mhm.
time. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, that's
When I was
amazing.
22, I was in a failing marriage that drug
Mm,
on for 15 years. So
sorry.
so I was sad a large part of the time, and I
Sorry.
didn't have a lot of hope.
Right.
Uh, so my life is totally different than I ever would have thought.
Right. I'm sure you look back though in those 15 years also, and you see only, one set of footprints, right? Like God
Yeah.
was carrying you through a lot of
Yes.
that time, man.
Mm.
That's great. So how does Susan want her dash remembered? That little line in between your incarnation date and your expiration date, your life date and your death date. Hopefully it's way down the road, Miss Susan. But
Yeah.
how do you want that dash remembered?
She loved God and God loved her.
Yeah. And God is love, so that means there's love everywhere around
Mhm.
you.
Yes.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So, Susan, what do you feel maybe people might misunderstand the most about you?
I appear a lot of times to be a very soft-spoken and easygoing person.
That's the blue side of it.
Yes, that's the part the Department of Social Services thought mistakenly that I was
Mm,
just gonna cave in.
right.
And, but I know I come across that way a lot of times, and,
Mm,
part of that is, of course, my personality. I'm just sort of laid back,
right.
in a lot of ways, but,
But
um
Mama Bear comes out if need be, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's funny. It must be something in the name Susan. My fiance's name Susan.
Uh-huh.
And the same things. Everyone's like, "Oh, Susan's." I'm like, dude, there's times when I push it
Yeah,
a little bit too far, and I get let known that. I love it. I love it.
yeah.
So, what if anything keeps you up at night?
Um, I can't really think of a whole lot. I usually hit the bed, go right to sleep, and wake up about 7 hours later,
It
honestly.
must be a Susan thing because literally I have timed my Susan one
Uh-huh.
time. She laid down, I hit the timer and I just watched her. She 8 seconds. The next night was 18 seconds. It was just like she does that. It's a super, to me, it's a superpower. Me,
Yeah,
I'm not like an insomniac, but I have to like have a whole protocol to go to bed, get the
yeah,
air right, get my pillows right and stuff like that. So that's
yeah.
awesome. So what let's take computers, cell phones, any of the other technological stuff out of this question. But what are
Mhm.
three things that Susan can't live without?
Mm. Besides my friends.
You can add friends. Friends are
Okay,
fine.
yeah,
Yeah.
my friends. But a lot of my friends, I need technology to contact them because we're
Sure.
online friends.
Right.
So,
No, I feel you. Yeah.
yeah, they all live in other countries.
Sure.
So,
Right.
I really need that
But you
technology.
need the community, the friends. What else do you
Yeah,
need? What's the other
definitely.
two?
I would say, music,
Okay.
definitely is another one,
Okay.
and, probably art.
All right. Beautiful. I love it. I love it. That's all three fantastic things. And Susan, what is your definition of a life well lived?
A life well lived. That's one where I am following Jesus, where I know every day that I'm doing what to the best of my ability, I'm doing what, he wants me to do, that I'm following on his path. I have a little dog, a little chihuahua
Hmm.
that watches feet all the time. I think it's because he's afraid somebody's gonna step on him. So when we go down to the mailbox, he follows me, like 4 feet behind,
Hmm.
never veers off, and the same thing coming back again. So I wanna do that. I think
Hmm.
of him, he's my role model. I wanna be like that and follow
Hmm.
Jesus, 4 feet behind, always watching his feet and making sure, because when you're watching feet, you don't really care where you're going. You
Right.
just know you wanna go wherever that person is going.
Hmm.
And so that's where I wanna go. I don't care
Beautiful.
what I don't care the destination. He knows the
Yeah.
destination.
You
I don't need to
trust.
know.
Yeah.
I just follow the
Blind
feet.
faith and trust. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Time to shine today podcast varsity squad. We are back. And if you have put down the Kleenex, we're going to move into something a little bit more fun. And Susan, you have 5 seconds max with no explanations to answer each one of these questions. They can all be done that way. You ready to level up?
Okay.
Here we go. Susan, what is the best leveling up advice you've ever received?
Don't look back.
Love it. Yes. Share one of your personal habits that contributes to your success.
I like to listen to music at night when
Nice.
I go to sleep with headphones on
Nice.
and listen to music and Christian music.
Beautiful.
And it's really a wonderful thing to do because it gets into your soul that way.
Love it. So, other than your book and also the good book, the Bible, is there any other book that you like to gift to people?
Oh, yes. And I have several of them. Particularly,
What's the number one?
yeah, the number one book, and it's an audio. I prefer the audiobook version of it. It's wonderful. One of the best books I've ever listened to. And I do like to listen to this when I go to sleep too. It's called Don't Miss Out.
Don't Miss Out.
By Jeannie Cunyon.
Okay. Beautiful. Excellent. Nicknames growing up?
Susie.
Susie, love it. So, chess, checkers, or Monopoly?
Monopoly.
All right. Go-to ice cream flavor?
Chocolate marshmallow.
Ooh, you and I can hang out anytime. Awesome. So there's a sandwich called the Susie. Build that sandwich for me. What's on it?
Definitely banana peppers.
Okay.
Start with that. It's got to have something spicy.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah. And mayonnaise.
Okay.
And a nice selection of Italian meats.
Ooh, there we go. Nice.
Italian cheeses.
Yeah.
And a little bit of Italian dressing. Yeah.
Good.
That sounds good. Now you're making me
I know.
hungry.
I'm not ready to go to Jersey Mike's or something. I don't know. Awesome. Favorite charity and or organization like to give your time or money to?
Yeah. I like something called I'm a Bridge Africa.
Okay, expand on that.
And it's an organization that does good works in Nigeria in particular is one of the areas.
I did a mission trip to Nigeria.
Oh, yeah. Really? I have 3 really good friends in Nigeria.
Nice. I also did Zambia. That was interesting as well. Excellent. Yeah. So last question. You can elaborate a little bit on this one as well, but what is the best decade of music? 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s?
Oh, 70s.
70s. I love it. I love it. But I was almost gonna predict that for you because you said the ages of your children. So it's like she had to have listened to a lot of 70s music. So because I'm 50, so I was born in 72. So I'm probably a little bit younger than your oldest, but about 4 or 5 years older than the one that you had the tribulations
exactly
with. Okay, very cool. Right. Very cool. So how can we find you, Susan?
My company's website, I have a publishing company now.
Yes, let's talk a little bit about that, please.
Yeah, it's called Soul Sunshine, and that's SONSHINE. And that
I love that. I love it, for like the Son of God.
Yes,
that's
and
beautiful.
We're all Christians in my company.
Okay.
It's wonderful. We pray with each other, and we work together. And we have like, for example, there's sunshine in my soul today. That's like one of our slogans. And that's we give your book a shining start.
I love it.
It's a wonderful.
And it's time to shine.
Yes. I thought of your podcast and I thought this is perfect.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
We match.
I love it. In Squad, and we've alluded to it before. And if you're an author out there, please let me make a warm introduction. My good friend Susan to help you get your message out there. I'm also going to do a book giveaway. She wrote a book. There's the book that she wrote regarding her daughter, called "The Wheels of Injustice: Saving My Child" from the Child Savers, which I think is an excellent title. And she also has a book, Button Goes to, I can't read my writing. Can you help me out with that?
School. Button Goes to School.
Button Goes to School.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
The Wheels of Injustice, I am going to do a book giveaway. The first person that puts Susie Q in any of our social, I don't care if it's Pinterest, Instagram, LinkedIn, wherever it is, or even text it to 561-440-3830, because I know you've listened. I will get a signed copy out to you on Time to Shine Today's Dime. I'll just send you the name in the money if you don't mind mailing it out for me. That'd be fantastic, Susan.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then what is Button Goes to School?
Button is based on a little dog that I used to own. And Button goes to school. Button goes to a doggy school training.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and she teaches the other dogs the golden rule.
So kind of do unto others if you have done to you.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Love that. And can you find, because I know that you can find The Wheels of Injustice on Amazon. Is that on Amazon as well?
Yes,
Beautiful.
it is.
Awesome. Or Goodreads or anywhere else you really find your books. And Susan, do me one last favor and leave us with one last knowledge nugget that we can take with us, internalize, and take action.
Okay. When I started my publishing company, God told me something about the process. He said, pay attention to the process. The process at that time had to do with finding artists to do illustrations for a book of poems that I have coming out also. And during that process of finding artists, I met all of the people that are now in my company. And it was the process that was the most important part. The process is where I became friends with them and got to know them, and we got to know each other and realized that God had brought us together for this purpose.
Wow. So stay present in the process and pay attention to that.
Right.
That's beautiful. And
right.
Squad, we had a really fun, heart-tugging, emotional, triumphal conversation with my good friend here, Susan. And, she wants to remind you, God is always with you. You have to have that faith. A lot of people will say, I'll believe it when I see it. But if you see it, you'll see it when you believe it. You believe in God. It's there. He wants to give you great things. And if you, like my good friend, Susan here, resilient and strong, like she was, God will never extinguish that flame as long as you stay true to it. Don't worry so much about the future, because you are basically sinning. And I'm not saying that in a religious kind of tone. Like sinning, if you go back to the Greek root word of sin, means missing the mark. That's exactly what that means. So I believe that if you're worrying about the future, you're sinning against today. God gave you the present for a reason. Live there. And if you are stuck, pray to God, and he will put the people in your life, just like Susan said about paying attention to the process, because with that process, a tribe became available to her that is in her, the vibes, like they say, your vibe attracts your tribe. And it's just beautiful. And my good friend Susan is just fantastic. I believe that she's planting trees that she'll probably never sit in the shade of. And I know that I am inspired after listening to my good friend Susan and having this fantastic discussion. She levels up her health. She levels up her wealth. She's humble. Yes, she's fierce and hungry. She's earned her varsity squad letter here at Time to Shine today. Thank you so much, Susan, for coming on. I absolutely love your guts.
Thank you so much.
You bet. We'll chat soon, okay?
Okay.
Bye now.
Bye.
Hey, thanks so much for listening to this episode of Time to Shine Today podcast. Proudly brought to you by Sutter & Nugent Real Estate Excellence, who can be reached at 561-249-7266 and online at www.sutterandnugent.com. If you are a business owner or professional who would like to be interviewed on Time to Shine Today, please visit timetoshinetoday.com/guest. If you like this episode, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. There's a link in the show notes to our website. Also there, you will see our recommended resources. We hope that you will support our show by supporting them. If you like what you've been listening to, it'd be great if you could just give us a 5-star rating and tell your friends how to subscribe while you're at it. I'm your host, Scott Ferguson, and until next time, let's level up. It's our time to shine.